Andrew Petcash, welcome to the Athletes Podcast. This is long overdue. It's going to be a great conversation. I'm excited for it. I'm first off going to let you introduce yourself, explain who you are, how you've come to be this pretty influential sports business, real estate tycoon, maybe I'll refer to you as. And, when we have conversations in the future, I'm sure that brand will continue to scale. But maybe just explain who this BU Div 1 ball player is now that's taken the world by storm on social media.
For sure. And David, too kind. I don't know. I wouldn't label myself as that humbly. But anyway, played basketball at Boston University, went through the whole sphere of sports my whole life. That was everything. And then kind of realized the whole other side. And it's a business. And I learned that in college firsthand of you're just another piece to the puzzle. You're a small piece to a much larger operation. And so just became interested in what's actually going on behind the scenes and started writing about it. Grew a small little business while in college around recruiting, pushed that off and started building my own thing now, Profluence, which covers the emerging sports landscape. So a lot of sports startup info and then also the business of athletes, which NIL, name, image, and likeness has helped accelerate greatly. So it's been a fun time to get into it. And just slowly adding to media entities. Started with newsletter and Twitter, and now getting a little more into video, and just LinkedIn even just started posting there really a month ago. So it's been fun because I get to stay in sports and build a business and around it.
Yeah, there's a lot of similarities kind of with how I started the Athletes Podcast, what you've been building. I had seen a bunch of your content on Twitter prior to this, and then when you join LinkedIn, I'm like, boom, this is my opportunity. Let's chat with Andrew. Let's get on a call. And it's sick, man, because I think what you've built is pretty incredible. It's educating a ton of athletes. Obviously, we've seen in the world of sports, athletes like Kevin Durant, Patrick Mahomes are investing millions of dollars into the sports space and seeing great rewards. And I think athletes need somewhere to put their money, so it might as well be back into sports. But let's start with you before we get into the business sports side. Talk to me about this ball player. I know now that you're golfing and doing triathlons, now that you're not shooting hoops at BU. But give me some insight onto the background of Andrew Petcash playing, growing up.
For sure. I mean, basketball is everything. I'm obsessed with what I do now, and before it was just basketball. So it didn't matter. I woke up, had a ball in my hands. I would sleep with a basketball. It was just my dad would take me to pit basketball games. And so when it just becomes your life and your obsession, that's all that you do. And I always knew I was going to make it to the highest level. It was just like a certain thing to it's just my mindset, right? We have these little weird feelings and it's not with everything, but I was always like, I know I can play Division 1 and not the most athletic kid in the world, but my work ethic got me there. And now I'm just trying to keep that itch, right? Because when you go from lifting, shooting, playing 2-3 hours a day, and then you wake up one day and it's over and you're like, uh-oh. So golf has been great because that's at least 4 hours on the course if you play 18. And then maybe 5 some of these days I'd be playing not too good. I'm in the woods for an hour. And then triathlons take up a lot of time as well, just with the training. And it was just something completely new. So I wanted to get in that. And also if I want to help athletes or keep covering them, I realized I need to stay an athlete myself. I think it's important where if they were like, hey, let's go train, I could hop right in and still do good. That's why I respect coaches like a Sean McVay that's jacked and, he could go bench with his players. I don't know. There's just something to it. You respect the coach, a person, anyone around it that still has that athletic piece to them. So I've always tried to keep that.
Yeah, Rod Brindamore is another guy like that in Carolina with the Hurricanes. He gets after it in the gym. I know guys are saying he's in there later than them some nights. It's so cool. I love hearing that because obviously golf, triathlon, both like endurance, long sports that take a lot of effort, time, and attention. What sports did you play growing up before ball? Like, were you multi-sport athlete, tons of sports growing up?
Yeah, I played obviously basketball and then baseball, soccer. Never played football, which is one, I don't know. I think I'll always have a slight regret. And it was my parents. They didn't really want me to play either, but then they allowed me once I got to high school. But I was always like, if I get hurt, I could miss basketball season. But there's just a small piece of me that's like, wow, I never put on the pads. Like, just who knows? It would have been cool. Just even if I hated it. So yeah, I played obviously golf too, growing up. I mean, we played in the neighborhood every sport you could think of and made up sports. But yeah, those are the days with, when you're 10 years old running around making up games.
Dude, it's I miss those days. And hey, if it gives you any, you know, relief, I played football for 5 games, broke my wrist. So similar to you, only did it in grade 10 and like probably shouldn't have because it probably delayed a whole bunch of other golf and hockey experiences. But hey, I had that itch and wanted to do it. I'm surprised for you as a Steelers and Penn State fan that you didn't get in there at least once. Who were those inspirations or athletes growing up that you looked at and you idolized?
I mean, Roethlisberger and Crosby, they were basically, since I can remember, they got there a few years after I was born. So I grew up, and it's wild now that Ben's done playing, Sid's almost done. That's been my whole childhood. So that's kind of crazy, and it's been cool to see. I obviously looked up to those guys, even in separate sports. And then in basketball, I was always shooters. I always just looked at that, calling a spade a spade. I always looked at those white guys and was just like, hey, this guy can do it. Why can't I? And so you think of like JJ Redick, Cal Korver, players like that. I always tried to emulate their games. Ricky Rubio was a fun one I like to watch.
What about like a Jimmer Fredette, maybe even? I was thinking that might be a college
Yeah,
baller that falls in my.
Jimmer falls in there. I mean, there's a decent amount. Gordon Hayward, but
Yeah.
yeah, those guys were fun to watch.
Dude, Pittsburgh is like a serious sports town. I feel like I need to get there at some point to witness what it's like. Obviously, you've got the Pirates, you got the Steelers, you got the Penguins, but man, like a good place for you to be able to grow up and witness some incredible sports, eh?
Incredible, yeah. And what's wild, I was talking to my dad the other day about this. That Pittsburgh's like one of the only cities where all the teams have the same color scheme. It's like, why don't any other cities have that? We have the black and gold. It's so smart just from a marketing. And so you see it
Yeah.
everywhere. And it doesn't matter if you wear a Pens hat, Steelers hat, or Pirates hat, even though the Pirates have sucked forever. I've never seen a good Pirates team. The hat, you see them all over, people that aren't even fans, the black and gold. So that's cool. But yeah, people are diehard fans up here. And I we'll probably get into this a little bit. I've had a little shift where I started to root for players more so than teams anymore, and I think that
Mm.
does stem from the Pens slowly getting worse, the Steelers getting worse and worse every year, and the Pirates stinking, and we don't have an NBA team. I've started to kind of be like, well, I don't know, these Pittsburgh teams aren't too hot, so I started rooting for players, which I think a lot of young kids do these days as well.
Yeah, let's get into that. I think that's a really cool topic. Like, who are those guys that you're rooting for now? Why do you think that change is? I know you wrote an article about the death of individual sports. Maybe we can talk about that. Like, yeah, give me some insight there.
Yeah, and that was a little piece of the inspiration behind that. The I noticed this in college because people would always be like, "Oh, what NBA team do you root for?" And I always be like, "I don't have one. I'm from Pittsburgh, not the Cavaliers." Nah, my dad took me. We saw LeBron play a few times when I was younger, but nah, I don't really care for them. 76ers, no way. No Phillies teams. Like I'm not gonna root for them. And it just started to become like looking at it, I was like, oh, I love watching Steph Curry play. I love watching Russell Westbrook. I love watching certain guys in college. And then I just started asking other people and realizing, wow, a lot of people, especially my generation, younger, uh, I guess you can kind of call that Gen Z, Gen Alpha. There's
Mhm.
this we root for players more so than teams.
Yeah, it's. I do you still like watching Russell Westbrook? I had to ask.
One of my teammates plays for the Lakers, Javante McCoy. He's two-way, so I keep an eye on the Lakers and get to watch that torture show of late.
Yeah. I got to. I went with Phoenix to the Clippers versus Lakers home opener there, and was underwhelming to say the least. At high expectations to go watch Anthony Davis, LeBron James, Russell Westbrook, Kawhi. Kawhi was legit. Kawhi is watching him in Toronto. That guy can ball out. But yeah, Russell was underwhelming at an 0 for 11 to say the least in that game.
I don't know what's up with him. His shot has been way off.
Well, how do you like for you as a ball player watching someone like that with the insane athleticism and abilities that he has, with everything at his fingertips from coaching, training, nutrition? Like, what do you look at and you're like, is that just not enough time on the court practicing, or what does that come down to?
I think a lot of it for him now is mindset. And then he tried to change his shot. So now he's obviously thinking about it. And it's probably just subconscious at this point where he might have some feelings where he's like, oh, I'm shooting better. But subconsciously, he's probably real messed up. Where for me, even if I was 0 for 10 in a game, I always would still be like, I'm the best shooter out here. I'll make the next one. And he's never really been a shooter his whole career. So he's probably never had that feeling. And I think it's mostly mindset. I truly believe that with a lot of shooting skill type stuff. Athletically, obviously, he's as gifted as it gets, but shooting's a skill. And I mean, you see that with guys like Duncan Robinson for the Miami Heat that signed an insane contract purely off his skill. He can't guard anybody. He's not athletic at all, but he's tall and he can shoot. He has a really good skill. So someone like Westbrook, when it's not going, it makes everything way harder because they just sag back, and now your mind goes, ooh, they don't respect me. And I saw it with the college teammate too. The same thing happened. He was the most athletic kid I've ever seen, but he couldn't shoot. And once teams figured it out, they slowly moved back, and he would go in the gym, but he just knew like no one respects me, and he never could get out of that slump for 2 years.
Crazy. It was interesting because it brings up a good point about how to like clear your mind is going to shoot the ball. I know that's one of the techniques you use to just get your mind off things. You think like, it's just going out there practicing, shooting hoops, clearing your mind. But if you're not making shots, that's probably doing the opposite and hurting the confidence even more, right?
100%. Yeah. Yeah. Nothing beats, I don't care what anyone says, I'll probably be 80, 90. Well, I do want to live to 102 years old, by the way, just fun fact, because I was born in 1998. So I think it'd be so cool to live in the 90s, all of the 2000s, and then at 2100. But anyway,
I'll get to 103 with you. I'll get to 103. We got this.
let's go, baby.
Yeah.
But hopefully the technology's good enough. And
Dude, 125. 125, that's my guess right now. I'll put it out there. Like with the way health, science, technology is advancing, no problem.
yeah, and that's another area I'm fascinated by. I love looking into all that. I don't do anything really in fitness or write about it or talk about it, but I do read and watch a lot of content. That stuff is fascinating. Obviously, topic for another day. But anyway, yeah, for me, it's still always been this anything's bothering me or I got to think about something. It's like, go pick up a ball and go shoot. You'll figure it out. And it's just meditation for me. And I think if you can find things like that, some people find them, some people don't. And obviously, it's a little harder. Like for you, you're not probably going to go, hey, let me put some skates on and go hit some shots, maybe. I don't know, but a ball and a hoop is pretty easy. You can find it almost anywhere. So that's the other benefit.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw, I posted about it on my LinkedIn. I went out and shot where we were staying in Los Angeles. Slightly dicier area, calling a spade, having a white guy out there from White Rock, British Columbia, shooting hoops was, I think, a bit of an anomaly for them to see at least. But it was the same thing. My mind was racing. I needed something to calm me down, and I was like, I'm gonna just go shoot hoops. And like, I stuck out like a sore thumb, but that's okay. Sometimes you got to do that and clear your mind that way. I'm curious, like for you now, you talked about it at the beginning, but going from playing Div 1, being that top of the totem pole, to 18 months later, having your own business, writing, doing deep dives on sports, investments, startups. What's that transition been like? How have you been able to adapt, still apply that energy and grit and tenacity that I'm sure you have from sports to the business world now?
Yeah, I think it's an easier transition than most people go through because I'm the oldest I have two younger brothers, and the one's still, well, they're both still in college, but the one's a senior and he plays basketball, and then the other one's just a regular student. And I just see his life and all the parties, and it's like Disneyland. He does whatever he wants. There's not many responsibilities. You go to school for a little, and I'm like, that would be much harder transition. Where for me, my brother, for you, it's almost a sigh of relief at times where we have all this extra time. And so for me, I'm like, my body feels better because I'm not sore. I'm not thinking or stressed out about a game or a mistake I made in practice or anything. And now I've learned the routines. So that's what all college and sports in general are about. You get routines, schedules, habits. Now just go and apply it. So for me, it's all about consistently. I started doing video content recently. Well, now I go, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do one a day. And so I'm not great at picking a time slot. That's one thing I've tried to get better at, but I know I'm going to get one a day in. Maybe it's at 6 in the morning, maybe it's at 12 at night, but I'll get it in. And I think sports taught me that completely, where it's just, if you say you're going to do something and you know you got to do it, go do it. And that's been helpful. I've just been able to stay consistent, never missed a newsletter post, Twitter thread when I wanted. I've never missed anything.
Good for you. That's sick. Not many can say that, man. And to be able to have that consistency, it proves it out, right? That's why you have built a following. That's why you have amazing content. What's it like seeing the amount of money that's going into sports, writing about it on a weekly basis? I mean, like, yeah, this is at my fingertips.
It's cool to see, but then it's also like, man, where's this money for me? Let me put it in. I know where it's supposed to go.
Yeah.
But no, it's awesome. And honestly, I just view it like a game. So I've had a cool short-term opportunities, but I feel I've been smart enough to go, wait, what am I really trying to build here? What's the long-term play? Don't give in to the short-term thing. It'd be like getting a college offer and it's your first one. You're like, oh, let's do it, but it's the wrong school, not the right thing. So similar type scenarios. I try to relate a lot of stuff back to sports. Even it's funny. You can just compare so much to it. Even something that seems like it wouldn't relate. Be like, well, that's kind of like in sports when a coach does this, or the media tries to ask you a question. It's like, no, it's now just business. So they correlate so well, and I think that's why you see so many athletes now being able to do so many cool things off the court as well.
Totally. It is actually crazy how much business and sport align and have that connection in some way, shape, or form. Who were those athletes that are now transitioning to business? I know one of your like most memorable pieces on Shaq's $1 billion idea getting an F. Maybe touch on that. Like, what are some of those pieces that you're looking at and you're seeing? You're like, these are golden nuggets.
Yeah, it's nice because every day there's more and more now. People are like, oh, you're gonna run out of content. I'm like, I assure you, trust me, I do this. I will never run out of content because now these athletes are doing so much more and sports is growing like crazy and there's all this money. But to the Shaq one, yeah, Shaq when he was in college, his marketing professor was like, we want everyone to bring something they think would be $1 billion company in the future. So Shaq, just being who he is a character, brings in his own brand. So he calls it Dunkman, shoes, shirts, just everything is Shaq branded. And his professor actually he didn't say like this idea wouldn't work because of the brand. He said it wouldn't work because big guys, meaning centers, 7-footers, they don't sell in the NBA. Because at the time it was Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, all these small forwards. So I mean these are still big guys, right? 6'6", 6'7", but not centers.
Yeah.
They weren't selling. And Shaq goes, okay. So 10 years later, he turns down a Reebok contract because he thought they were charging too much money for shoes. And he goes, wait, I had this idea from college. He builds it and he does sign with Walmart. So that helps a big piece of it, but ends up becoming $1 billion company. And it's like, holy cow. Like, I think about this with LeBron even. LeBron has $1 billion deal with Nike. What if LeBron just said, you know what? I'm going to go create my own shoes and brands and hire a team to do it. That might be a $10 billion company. I don't know. So it's if Nike's willing to pay him $1 billion, how much is he really worth? So I think athletes are starting to think about that and go, okay, yeah, 5 million endorsements, nice, but what if I can make 50 mil from my own brand or company, or what if I can invest in something and get equity? And this shift has been amazing, and that's what's fueled my content, honestly, because now you see it with younger guys even too that are in college and it's not going to take 50 years for them to start making investments. They're seeing pro guys do it, so they're doing it right away. So we're 1 year in and guys are going, I can sign a $50,000 endorsement deal for NIL, or I can get a piece of this company. Let me take a piece of this company. So it's not all of them will work out, but these guys are getting smarter and there's better people around them. There's better teams around these athletes. And that's honestly the main thing. The athletes are getting smarter, but they're just getting smart enough to get smart people around them. That's honestly what matters at the end of the day. Are they smart enough to realize there's smarter people than them? And they're starting to go, oh yeah, this guy knows what he's doing. Let me have him help me make some business moves. And then now everyone's making more money.
I could not agree more with that statement, and it's so crucial, so important because like that's, man, athletes were getting taken advantage of. You know, whether it's before NIL, that's frankly the way it was. You had money being poured in by institutions and not making cash, and they didn't have people around them to advise them on what to do. Dude, you hear these stories all the time, and you hope now that NCAA they can fix that and provide opportunities so that these kids can make cash and make those investments early, right?
Yeah, and it's even Magic Johnson. Nike, most people don't know, Nike offered him the deal first with equity, and he said no because it was just equity. MJ said, "Sure, let's do it." We all know how that turned out.
Dude, could you imagine Magic just sitting back? He's like, ooh. Every day that would haunt me.
Yeah, I mean, he's done well and it probably motivates him, but at the same time, I mean, they offered him way too much percentage of the company. I think they offered him 10%. So, I mean, that wouldn't just be he'd be a billionaire. He would be, you know, near the top of the Forbes list. Him and Phil Knight would be chilling next to each other there. So I'm sure that one hurts. But at the time, Nike was a nobody and Converse was the go-to company. So it's easy to say now for sure.
Yeah, hindsight's 2020, right? Talk to me about your Sunday night routine with the whiteboard.
Oh yeah, we had the LinkedIn Sports Challenge. It's been a fun one. I'm glad Adrian set that up. That's been cool to participate in. But I put out a post. It was just about what you do. And refresh me if I'm wrong on this, David. But it was basically just what is your end of week or start of week routine. And I basically just said something I do. So every Sunday, I have a whiteboard. It's actually I won't try to reach and grab it. But I block it off into segments. So I basically one of the segments is this past week, what did I accomplish that I set out to do, or what did I miss? So if I missed anything, I'm going to push that to the other side. What I accomplished, I look at it. Okay, how well did I do it? Why did I do it? Did I move forward? And then I apply it to the next week. So there'll sometimes be carryover, hopefully not too much carryover. So that would mean I got everything done. And then I block out, okay, this is what I want to do this week. And I write it all down, whatever flows off my head, and then I try to put it in priority list. And it sets a great intention. And my whole thing is, we had this podcast at 2 p.m. Eastern time. I'm going to be here on time. We're going to do it. I'm going to show up for you. This is awesome. I'm happy to be here. But if I set a meeting for myself at 9 a.m. and I say, hey, I'm going to create content for an hour, am I going to show up then? So the whole thing of the whiteboard is where during the week do I need to show up for myself to move things forward? So right now I'm in this data collection process for something I'm doing, and it's a pain in the butt, but I'm like, hey, today I woke up, we got another hour, which was awesome, save daylight savings or whatever. And I woke up and got some data done. So I already feel like I won the day, got the workout in. And that's the whole board, is just to look at things from a third person perspective and be like, if I was watching a movie on myself right now, is this person moving in the right direction, doing what they're saying they're going to do? And I don't know, it's just awareness. I think not enough people are aware of what they're actually doing, good or bad. Some people just stumble across success. It's like, well, did you see what you did? So I want to make sure, I think there's some stumbling, some luck, whatever you want to call it. But at the same time, I can engineer that and give me a greater percent chance.
Yeah, 100%. It's like you said, reverse engineering what you're looking to that outcome to be, whatever it is, and putting in the effort and time. I always like to ask, because I think that's one of the things that college sports provides a ton of, is that routine, scheduling, sticking to it. Like, people don't necessarily understand the benefits of being dedicated to a sport, having a coach that's dialed in with you, explaining exactly what you need to do on a daily basis to get to where you want to be. And you talked about, collecting data for other projects. What do you have on the horizon that you can share with the Athletes Podcast listeners here today, Andrew, that you've got cooking up your sleeve that you want to share maybe some tidbits on?
For sure. Yeah. One of the things I want to do is I have all this content that I've either posted on Twitter, LinkedIn, wrote articles about, and I just wanted to live in one spot, my own spot. So I'm in the process of building a website. So a lot of that data is, hey, I have all these articles. I need to shift them over to the website. I have all these Twitter threads. I need to go back and find them, copy and paste them, edit them, change them, add them to the website. So that's one thing. I want this center place, platform, whatever you want to call it. And that's one of my main focuses right now that I'm excited for 2023. And I'm just trying to add as much value as possible for who I call the main pieces to the puzzle, which are the executives, the investors, the athletes, and just sports professionals in general. And I want to be able to build something where it's not really about me. It's about whoever reads it, whoever listens, whoever watches. My content is just hopefully giving people the right info. Now, how can we make it feel more membership community based? And that's a 2023 objective for me. Or, hey, David, you read my stuff. Hey, there's this other girl, Jacqueline, she reads it. How can we make this mutually beneficial where obviously I can monetize, but also it's not just, hey, you got to pay to read this or pay to be a part of it. It's like you're going to get a lot out of it. So I'm trying to figure that out. And that's a huge 2023 objective.
Yeah, I think Profluence is going to positively benefit a ton of people. It's a numbers game and it's a time game, right? Like you and I have the benefit of having time on our side, frankly. If you listen to guys like Gary Vee, they'll call us babies. And, frankly, the more I look at it, you talk about shifting your perspective. We do have tons of time, right? And, when you start doing something consistently week over week, year over year, you're going to see the rewards eventually. But like you said, you got to play the long game, right? Like, and that's not an easy thing to do when you get thrown cash short term. You think it looks great. It's your first Div 1 offer. What was that process like for you being offered scholarships, choosing schools? That's one thing I don't necessarily talk about enough, but I think it's really important. Like throughout that process, what was it for you? Any piece of advice you'd provide?
Yeah, and I think that's most people have great stories around it that have so many lessons and stuff that I'll keep with me for the rest of my life. So for me, I made a ton of mistakes. I earned, I think it was 6 or 7 D1 offers, and I went on my first visit, which was to Army West Point, and they put on the whole show, and I committed for just, they blew me away. But then at all the other schools like weren't calling back, and I was confused, not sure. I didn't really announce anything. Well, they all know it's a small world. They all go, oh, this kid, he's committed there because they're happy about it. They got who they wanted. But then I started to sit back and go, wait a second. Did I really listen to the whole thing? Did I just get sucked into their whole event and the football game and the whole military tradition? I go, wait a second. I got to serve for 5 years after I go there. So do I really want to do that? Didn't, I'm speaking about myself here. I was like, don't you want to play pro sports, or don't you want to go build your own thing after? You can't do that if you go here. You got to serve in the military for 5 years. So then I ended up decommitting actually on signing day. So I waited. So now I screwed them big time because they thought they were getting me. So they didn't recruit anyone else in that position. And I lost everything. And then it was battling late into my senior year. And I had to re-go through this whole process. And, most spots were already taken because I'd made this bonehead move and waited. And I didn't have anyone to tell me what to do. And then I actually was committed to a prep school. So I was going to go up to the Northeast and play at the school called New Hampton. And BU called me and they said, hey, we want to offer you for next year. Go to New Hampton, have a good year. And, we'd love to have you. It's great. You're getting an extra year and you'll be more prepared. A week before I'm supposed to go to prep school, 10 days before BU starts school, their head coach calls me, Joe Jones, and he goes, hey, they always call me AP. He's like, hey, AP, one of our guys is gone. You want to come a year early? And I was like, well, I was supposed to come this year anyway. Let's do it. And so I jumped full in, and then I broke my wrist on the first day I got there. So that's a whole nother add twist, terrible adversity overcoming on my side after that. But it was honestly a crazy process, and I summarized it a lot. There was a lot more that happened in between, and showing up to schools and them basically saying, yeah, thanks for coming, but we don't want you anymore. And I learned a lot about myself during that time period.
Do you want to share what that was like going through breaking your wrists, that experience? Like, I can't imagine day one, like you got all these excitement, emotions going through your first day BU, like, ah, ah.
Yeah, I could still remember calling my dad and him just being sick to his stomach. So I had missed summer. So I came in with three other freshmen who are now three of my best friends, Walt, Javante, and Suk. And they're all, Walt's, he's in his 6th year at BU. Everyone laughs. He's like, yo, you've been here your whole life. It's funny. But Javante's on the Lakers, and then Suk's playing in the Netherlands. But anyway, they were there all summer, so they got to know each other. They were there for 3 months. A lot of the roster spots were honestly kind of solidified, which I didn't know that does happen over the summer because you just know as a coach, as a player, you start to see it. And I get there first day, we have pickup, and I'm actually playing really well. And everyone's like, yo, this kid's a baller. And the one coach is like, yo, we're about to have the best freshman squad ever. And then one of the walk-ons, he pump fakes, and I jump over him and flip and just fall. And I had never gone, and the crazy thing is, I had never gone hurt in my career either. So I've never gone through injury. So now it's my first day, brand new city, brand new people. I have a cast, and then we have recruits the next night, and there's a party, and I'm sad, so I go have a good night, and then I fall down the stairs, like all kinds of crazy. It was the craziest first weekend ever. It would be a great little movie or short clip, but yeah, I remember calling my dad and him just being like, "Are you effing serious?" And I'm like, "Yep." And then I missed, and then I came back a week before the season, and somehow some injuries, some seniors that were just kind of burnt out and done. We weren't that good at that point, and then our class got better, but I got some playing time that year. And then by my junior year, we won our Patriot League title, so we made it to March Madness, but it got canceled because of the pandemic. So it was yeah. I mean, looking back even now, telling the story again, it never loses its spark. It was just crazy looking back.
Yeah. Do you know James Karnick?
Yeah, I know James.
Yeah. So I played high school ball with him at Earl Marriott up in South Surrey, British Columbia, and got to guard him for a couple years before he went to Orangeville Prep, and he's been on the pod in the past. But it's crazy, man. The NCAA is wild. I'd love for you to share a bit about NIL, what your thoughts are heading forward, what's been done so far, what your predictions are. I'm curious. You're in the space.
Yeah, NIL is what I basically came into the space with because I said, what else can I act like and I hate the word expert. What else can I act like I know and have done before? And I was like, well, I was just an athlete like just recently. And I had built some things while in college and went to a good school and learned finance, business, real estate, all that stuff. Let me just start talking about it. I just started putting out thoughts, and people start going, yeah, this kid makes decent sense. And I think we've seen it evolve so much. And I think where it's going in two places. The athlete's going to continue to gain more power because their market value's truly being shown now. Like, wow, how the heck did we not pay these guys for 100 years plus? Like, I mean, football, if Big Ten signs $1 billion media deal. Yeah, now the players shouldn't get any of it. Are you kidding me? Doesn't that make any sense? So I think we're starting to see that where players are now like, nah, this is our value. And collectives, these alumni boosters are paying them. And then on the flip side, the schools, though, are going, wait a second. Joe Schmo used to donate $10 million a year, and we'd put it towards facilities, our athletic department, our own budgets. And now Joe Schmo's going, you know what? I'm just going to pay athletes because you're not doing what I want with the money. And so the side effect of that, though, is now I think schools are going to bring more of it in-house. And the NCAA, they're going to have to do something, and they're not going to punish because everyone's doing it. And we're going to see the top players get paid really good money that are basically contracts. And then those same guys are going to sign the best endorsement, and girls are going to sign the best endorsement deals as well. But if you're a creator and you have any sense, see, I didn't do any well in college. I wish I would have now because I would be probably even further ahead. But if you have any personality or sense of touch, like you have my brother, he loves fitness. Dan, he just starts putting out videos about things he does as a D1 athlete, and people love those videos. And
Oh yeah.
he's got like a couple million views on TikTok in a couple of weeks since posting. He started the same time I started on LinkedIn. He started on TikTok because I was like, dude, you got to start, just try. Signed his first brand deal. Now he's making a few $1,000 a month. And I'm like, you see how easy that was, and any college athlete could replicate that, literally any. And
And it's a game changer. Like a couple of grand in school is a lot of money.
Heck yeah. I mean, that's awesome. And they get cost of attendance, which is even better. So they get paid to go there, which was a good rule that took too long. We always at BU, because cost of like the school, the tuition or total package it was 82,000 or something crazy. So our full rides, like people never transfer because they're like, yo, I'm not giving this scholarship and education up. But we were always like, why don't we get cost of attendance? And it was because that cost of attendance would have been really high for the school to pay.
Yeah, it's always interesting. Was there like a school that you wanted to go to before attending BU? Like dream NCAA, obviously being in Pittsburgh. Like was Penn State, was that the goal, or was there an NBA team that you wanted to play for ideally?
Yeah, I don't know. The NBA was, maybe this was where like there was a limiting belief. I just always, I don't know. Maybe I was never really interested in the NBA. I was just always like, I never really watched it that much growing up, and I just didn't really care that much. But I would have loved to play for Pitt because I grew up University of Pittsburgh. You go to all their games, 30 minutes away, and they had some fantastic teams, and we would go to the autograph signings, and I knew some of the guys growing up, and you look up to those guys when you're a young kid. So I was always like, oh, I'd love to be in their shoes, and I'm hoping. Well, one of my buddies I grew up playing with, he played at Colgate, so he played in the Patriot League. We played each other for most of the years. He just transferred for his super senior, his 6th year as well. That's what's crazy right now with all these rules. These guys are like 25. They're my age still playing. I'm like, bro, how are you still playing? I can't even touch my toes anymore. I'm out of shape. But he transferred to Pitt, and I was like, that's super cool to get to play your final year where you grew up.
Yeah, yeah, you got guys who just graduated high school, barely have armpit hair, playing against 25-year-olds, you know?
And it's just like, whatever. And it hurts the high school recruiting big time.
Right? Yeah. Hey, Andrew, this has been a pleasure. AP, I'll refer to you as. Any other, like, Cash Money? You didn't get that as a nickname going through school?
Yeah, well, my main nickname was Cash, but when you're younger, it's cool to say. But now, what am I going to introduce? Yeah, everyone calls me Cash. It's kind of like corny. So but yeah, that was it was funny growing up, even in school. Most of my teachers, no one ever called me Andrew. So it's funny now just being Andrew and another weird point, I don't know very many Andrews that are actually called Andrew. I think everyone that's named Andrew hates their name. And I always tell my parents, I'm like, why'd you name me that? No one likes that name. But whatever. I don't really care.
Yeah.
So yeah, Cash and AP were kind of what everyone referred to me as throughout the years. Even
Well,
teachers, it was crazy. I'd be in art
yeah.
class 8 a.m. in the morning. Cash, I'd be like,
AP, it's been a pleasure, man. This is the first of many conversations. I look forward to keeping in touch. The way we wrap up every episode on the Athletes Podcast is we ask our guests what their biggest piece of advice would be to the next generation of athletes. Having gone through it, lived it, writing about it now, I'd love to hear your 2 cents.
for sure. Appreciate you having me on, David, especially as my voice keeps cracking throughout this episode. But my biggest piece of advice would first off just get started on thinking about your career after sports earlier than rather than later. Because I've seen so many, I started thinking about before and I was able to see where I wanted to be. And as soon as I got done, I was able to evolve pretty quickly. But I've seen some teammates, actually not some, a lot of teammates and just people I know just get really absorbed and now they're lost because they think basketball, and that was what I'm familiar with. They thought that was the be all end all. Well, when that ends and you realize, yeah, I don't want to go make $10,000 playing in some random European country. Now what? And they don't really have any skill sets. They don't really know what they like, what they don't like. And then they end up miserable. And it was like one day they are having the best time of their life, and the next day they're lost. And so I'd always be like, just think about it. You don't have to obsess over it. You should really be focused on your sport, becoming the best you can. Also put out content. It's not only great for NIL deals, it's just where everything's going as well. People aren't going to be like, let me see your resume now. People will be like, yo, send me your TikTok and your Twitter. I truly believe that. And if you start thinking about it after, you can transition and you can be hosting the Athletes Podcast one day and,
Writing for Profluence. I love it. Hey, man, it's been a pleasure. Like I said, I really appreciate you coming on, sharing what you do is incredible. I'm a listener, viewer, reader. Can't wait to keep in touch. Where can people find you on social media so that they can follow your TikTok and Twitter instead of asking you for it?
For sure. Yeah. I put all my socials are just at Andrew Petcash, try to keep it simple. And then profluence.com. And that's attached to all my socials as well. And yeah, feel free to hit me up anytime. I try to answer questions and give back as much as possible these days.
Dope. Hey, Mr. Petcash, we'll be meeting you in Pittsburgh shortly. We'll see you. We'll go catch some type of football sporting event at some point. And hey, appreciate you coming on again. Hope you have a great rest of your day, dude.
Appreciate it, David.